yes, you're the problem. So now you have confirmed what you've been thinking in your own head.
And they were seeing, especially in 2023, was this social contract where it's like,
on one of my worst days, like if I'm having a shitty day when I wake up and I get behind a bus and I see the bus waiting for the kid to come out the door, that is on a bad day. That is something to set me off like a fire alarm. I know we're off subject, but I just noticed it the other day. I'm like, when did the buses start waiting for these kids to come out the door? So I think a lot of people are fed up with that. They're like, I've always worked for the job I wanted and not the one I had, and I was never given the opportunity.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Big Man's Cabana podcast. I'm your host, Matthew J. Lepore, as always, and this is my good friend, Chris Gregory. Chris, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me back again, Matt.
Yeah,
Definitely
man.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Dude.
Real quick, I'm nervous as a pig in a Hatfield truck right now. So
You're good,
so
bro.
everybody forgive my little stutter stepping if you hear it.
No, you're cool, dude. I literally have an entire well, not me. Me and my buddy have an entire podcast called Stuttering in Silence. Because, really quick shout out with that. There's going to be some big news coming for the Stuttering in Silence fans. I know a lot of you guys are intertwined with the fans here and there. In about a month and a half, make sure you guys are checking your socials and everything else. There's going to be some big news coming. Gavin and I have been fucking going crazy. Shout out my brother over there, Gav. Big stuff's coming, so check that out, guys. A little quick shout out. Sorry about that. Dude. So we got you on again. Right after some time, a lot has been kind of happening, like in the world, men's mental health, just interactions with people, and one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, which I've noticed a lot, is the social contract, right? And I think you and I were alluding to a lot of it, like on the conversation we were having before we started recording, was people are saying right now in 2024. And they were seeing, especially in 2023, was this social contract where it's like, I see you on the street, and you just go, "What's up?" And I just go, "What's up?" Or like, I'm walking into Wawa, I'll hold the door open for you real quick. Or, like you work at the gym, right? So when I come in, hey, good morning or good afternoon, and you go, "Oh, good morning, good afternoon." Like there's that. I respect your place in this universe.
Yeah.
Thus, for you. Respect my place. But I think a lot of times with people now that contract, that social contract that we all kind of not abide by but kind of understood is no longer a thing. Does that make sense?
It does. And I hate to say this because I never thought I'd be at a point in life where I was saying this, but I think a lot of it does have to do, unfortunately, with social media.
Yeah.
Because that human interaction is not there as much.
Sure.
I even notice it with interacting with the younger generation in the gym. There's not that ease of conversation here. Like you said, just, hey, good morning, good afternoon, how's it going? Even those short statements are awkward for a lot of people because, again, you don't have to interact with people as much anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely does make it more difficult, in the world because, again, I know for me, as much as my anxiety gets bad at sometimes, that human interaction some days is definitely necessary.
Yeah, dude. It's weird, isn't that? It's like you can go on social media and see hundreds of people or watch vlogs of families of them going to Disney World or they're, interacting with their friends. And it is so funny that, like, you do need that. See, there you go. I just started saying my brain sometimes works way too fast for my mouth. But you do... Once again, you do need that social interaction to kind of continue going, but I do think that they go keyboard warriors, where it's like people can like say what they want, and there's a screen in front of you. There's no like if someone were to say that in front of me to my face, there's gonna be words or hands or whatever it is. But now that they don't have that social interaction. And there's a barrier. People can do and say what they want and act the way they want instead of seeing these consequences that kind of come. And sometimes those consequences are people get physical or they break down and they're emotional or, like they get a comment that they're not okay with. And now that interaction isn't as, what's the word I'm looking for? benign as they thought it was going to be, you know?
And one of the major differences, obviously, between keyboard and talking is the context of it. Because as we know,
True.
you can say a statement, the same statement, 10 different ways, and it can mean 10 different things depending on the attitude, the context behind it. So, again, when you don't see somebody, even like if you text somebody, one of your friends, like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, oh, I'm having a rough day. And you're like, oh, man. If they read that the wrong way, they can take it as you don't care, you're
Yep.
blowing them off. Whereas you texting it, you're like, oh, man, I feel bad for you. So, again, when you don't have that interaction, it leaves a lot to the imagination. But I also think that people anymore, especially after COVID, they don't know how to interact with people too.
That's the thing, that whole social contract.
Yeah.
They were saying like COVID destroyed that.
Yeah.
And to your credit, there's actually a good. You've seen Key and Peele, right?
Yeah.
So there's a really good skit they do, and it's I think it's Key. I don't know his full name. But he's like, hey, do you want to get drinks tonight? And his friend's like, yeah, I thought we were getting drinks, and they're like texting back and forth, and he goes, cool. So, and like they're texting back and forth, but one of them is like at home in the kitchen, like getting mad. He goes, "Oh, it's okay, it's fine." And the
Yep.
guy's like, "Cool, sounds good."
Yep.
And like the one guy's like smoking weed, he's chilling at his house, and he goes, "I'll meet you there." He goes, "Oh, he's gonna meet," and the like. It's just to your point. It's like people can take the text message however they are feeling in that moment,
Yes.
right? Like if you're like, "Hey, Matt, I'm here," and you put like a period. But I'm like not okay in my headspace, or I'm angry, or something happened. I'm like, oh, a period. He's here. Okay, be outside.
Yep.
But you're having a great day. You go, oh, cool, Matt's coming. I'm like, what the fuck was that period for, bro? And you're like, what are you talking about? Excuse me. How did we get here?
Mhm.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah. And the same thing with that letter. Like when they go K.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as I'm getting older, I'm finding myself having to like Google some of these short things anyway. So for me, it's like I get annoyed because I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
But again, depending on the person's day, that just K can mean you're brushing them off completely.
Exactly.
Whereas you're just in a time crunch and you can't express that.
tell
So
it.
again, because normally this is a friend that you interact with, in your mind, you're thinking we interact every day. Cool, but again, they're going through something and you don't know that. So again, they interpret it as you're brushing me off. You don't care.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all kind of how you feel.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like I realized that like it was probably 2.5 years ago ish. My dad texted me and I'm like, yo, dude, I got this all ready to go for you whenever. And he goes, "Okay." I'm like, "Did I do something? What's wrong? What's going on?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Nothing, Matthew." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm the problem. It's me." Taylor Swift wrote that in a song somewhere. But
that should be written on my forehead. I'm the problem.
dude, I feel that sometimes. Like, I'll sit in the kitchen. I'm like, "Is it me, guys? Am I the problem?" And of course, they're all assholes, so they all go, "Absolutely, chef, you are the problem." And I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Look, I walk around my house and ask myself that question. And the answer usually is yes, which
I feel
is
that
not
emotionally.
a good thing, but
Well, it's just how it goes sometimes. Dude. Sometimes like, and this is the one thing too that does bother me with everything now. It's like sometimes people really just have to take a step back and be like, maybe I am the problem. And I'm not saying necessarily your case. I'm saying like
No,
people who cause a lot of the issues. Like, there's a big thing right now with kind of taking responsibility for like actions and things like that. But on the flip side, that whole movement has enacted a lot of people being like, oh wait, maybe it wasn't me. I see how this is making me feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're doing. And people have been able to get out of like abusive relationships and things like that. Like I just had a good friend of mine on, Daria. She is one of the bartenders. She also works in the salon. She just got out of an abusive relationship.
Okay.
And she was talking a lot about that. Like she was thinking like she was the problem. It's her. She has to internalize this. And then her therapist is like, no, dude, it's not you.
Well, unfortunately, when you deal with narcissistic people, they play on that. So if you're already in your own head and unfortunately you're dealing with somebody who knows that, they then take advantage of that, and it definitely doesn't help you because, again, you're already questioning yourself. You're already questioning, is it me? Am I causing the problems? And then when somebody, even if it's in a malicious way, they come and confirm it, that's all you hear. You don't see who it's coming from. You don't realize who it's coming from. You just hear, yes, you're the problem. So now you have confirmed what you've been thinking in your
Yes.
own head, and that
which
stinks.
is wild too, and it sucks because I feel like they always say you are what your trauma is, which I don't necessarily agree with all the time. I do think I guess I don't know if someone said this, but it's you are what you make of your trauma. So, like if you have like, cause I know I have a lot of situations that accumulated actually in this house and like a lot of like my past and like child services and things like that. I mean, you come from Trenton, so there's only so much that can happen, right?
You
shout
said
out,
it, not me.
shout out my Jersey boys. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that people, and therapy is also a really good thing too. Like I know I'm saying this and I don't go to therapy, and I probably should, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, dude, and I think from someone like you, right? In my eyes, and when everyone else, because I don't know anyone that I talk to, especially in the gym, that says a bad thing about you, ever. And it's always really positive things. But then, like, I'll hear you talking. I'm like, oh, dude, man, like people really did you dirty, And it sucks to hear. But sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. I mean, look, I tell everybody, listen. If anybody knows I'm an asshole, sometimes it's me.
I feel that.
I know I can be a grade A platinum dickhead at times.
That's what I said by myself.
I
Yeah.
mean, but for the most part, I really do try to be the best person I can, because kind of going off something you said earlier, you just don't know where people are in the world.
Yeah.
And I say this to people because I've always been observant, but as of lately, I've really been observing, because it's just you just notice, like, in society the mood has shifted. And I remember a time you walk into a Wawa or a place like that in the morning and you hear chattering and not even meaningful conversation, but you hear chattering. Fast forward to today, you walk in a Wawa, you can almost read the angst on people's faces. You can almost hear people thinking, okay, I got $20. I'm going to buy a cup of coffee. I got to get 10 for gas.
Yep.
So for me, it's like, even when I'm having my worst day with my anxiety and depression, I shut down, which I know is not good. But that for me is my way of protecting the outside world, because I don't know where somebody else is on the ledge. Like, I think I'm on the ledge. Somebody else might be really just hanging on to the ledge.
Sometimes that's how it is. Oh my gosh. Oh, there was a perfect thing that just happened. This guy killed himself, and something I forget. Oh my gosh, you guys are gonna butcher me in the comments section. Fine, but basically, it's that same premise. This guy got fired or whatever it was, and it was because he was running a little late for something that happened at home or whatever it was, and that thing was like the last thing that was going on. But the guy already was like on the ledge, financially ruined here, something else happened here, and it's like boom, he just lost his job. Now, yeah.
I think what people need to understand also is this: how you process something is how you process it, and how I process it is how I process it.
Sure.
So there'll be some people who will hear that story, and their first comment will be, well, I mean, everybody's going through something. You don't kill yourself because of that. Well, it's easy for you to say, because again, your brain processes it differently. Your brain may just
is reality.
Yes, your brain processes it as, I'm going through financial difficulties, X, Y, and Z is happening, but it's life. Whereas somebody else is like, oh my God, can anything else bad happen to me? And their mind is thinking it's never going to get better. It's always getting worse. So while you're able to maneuver around it and say, you know what, I'm going to be okay, a lot of people can't get to that. And again, unfortunately, it's always when it's too late when you hear people say, I wish I had known.
Yeah, there's this trend going on, and it's not a bad trend, but it's like keep an eye on your happy friends, right? And it's this like it's this audio from that new Willy Wonka movie. Doompa loompa. I got a bad feeling about that audio.
Okay.
So, but it's like you're walking to, and your friend who couldn't get out of bed like 2 weeks or like a week ago is all really happy at the party, and it's just, I got a bad feeling about you, because a lot of the times is like people like that, they have now decided that they have a way out, And there one of the most viral videos that just came out was these two guys. I think they're in the UK, and they're going to these soccer matches.
Mm-hmm.
And the one guy's like kind of sitting how we are sitting, but they're in like the bleachers, and he's like, like kind of like grumpy, like older grandpa. He's not like an older grandpa, but he's like acting like an older grandpa.
Yeah.
And the other buddy's like, "Oh yeah, goal, goal, goal." And then they do this like week and week and week, and then the happy friend was no longer there because he killed himself. But you would have thought it was the other one that's all grumpy and like tired and not wanted to be there.
People don't understand how selfless people suffering from depression really are. I think not all, obviously. I mean, there's always some cases, but most people are selfless in the sense of, I used to always think, before because I've been suffering from anxiety and depression and all kinds of mental health issues for years, but I really didn't start taking care of it properly, or not even that. I didn't really know about it until, recent years. And it's just, it's even I'm learning how to deal with my good and my bad days. But I think it's just easy for us to look at somebody who's happy and say, "Oh, well, you can't be sad."
Yeah.
Like that makes it's like, okay, somebody getting paid and then you saying to them, "Well, you can't be broke."
Right.
Why can't I? I mean, things happen, life happens.
You got bills, you got car. Of course you get paid, you're all happy, and then check on your light.
Yes. And again, it's like a lot of people go to sleep happy, and when they wake up, they don't feel that way.
Yeah.
And try to imagine how that feels. Like, you go to bed with all these like happy thoughts, like tomorrow's going to be a new day. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to see this person. I'm going to go to work. I want to make it the best day. And you wake up, and it's just like somebody turned the switch off. And it's like, you're mad now because it's like, you went to bed with all these happy thoughts, but you wake up and you just don't feel it. And again, it's easy to look at somebody who's happy and say, "Oh, okay, they have no problems." Because, not to sound selfish, but we kind of do want people to be happy because it's easier for us. It's easy. Wouldn't it be easy if all your friends and family were happy? So when you said, "Hey, how are you doing?" it would just say, "Hey, I'm doing great."
I'm doing great. Living the dream. Yeah.
It would be easy. But again, unfortunately, that's not life.
And you know what's wild too is that whole thing with like, you expect someone to have money or they have money and then they're happy, or they have fame, but then you look at all the people like Robin Williams, prime example. There's been a bunch of them now, and then it's like you look at all these guys like Jeff Bezos, a bunch of those dudes who have all this money, all this power, and their wives are still leaving them. They're not happy in these situations, and it's like, good.
One thing that I'm actually still learning, and I've learned, you have to really learn what happiness means to you. And I think all too many times we take our happiness cues from others and society.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because again, we look at the Jeff Bezos and, the Bill Gates, and all those wealthy people, and we automatically equate that wealth with happiness. But like you said, their wives are still leaving them. Like, they're still, because again, do they really know what happiness is outside of societal definitions of happy? Because again, you would look at somebody like your Robin Williams. You were making a living doing what you loved. What's wrong? Well, it's easy to say what's wrong, but again, for years he probably spent that time making others laugh, masking how he really was feeling.
Yeah.
And every time he made somebody laugh, that's probably how much he wanted to cry.
Yeah.
I know how that feels because I always say to people, I never want anybody to feel how I feel. So on a good day, even if I'm a little bit feeling like crying, if I'm having a good day, I'm going to laugh because that's how much I want to cry, if that makes sense.
Now, let me ask you a question to see if you're on the same plane of thinking that I am. So when it comes to like, I'm having a bad day, like, I mean, I might look a little like, but like sometimes I just like, I will put on a face so people go, "Oh, you're having a great day, man." I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Dude, like, no. But I don't want you to ask more questions. So it's better for me just to pretend like I'm happy and keep it pushing."
Here's what I've learned with that, unfortunately. this is just me, I've learned. That is great until it's not. And what I mean by that is when you pretend to be happy, then people then take that, and then that's when they want to drop their problems on you, or they want to keep going. I'll be honest with you. What I'm learning is on days when I don't have it, I just don't have it. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, I'm human. And if I tell you I don't have it, I would hope that's enough for you to say, you know
Sure.
what? I get it. We all have bad days. You know, if there's something I can do, let me know. But for the most part, I'm going to go on about my day. Because, again, there are days like, you know, when you come in and I know, you know, you're tired or
Yeah.
whatever. And, again, I'm not going to press the issue because I'm used to you being jovial,
Yeah,
man. Like,
yeah.
and I think that's so unfair for people to do. Like, you're always so happy. You're always so cheerful. What's wrong today? Well, I'm human. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, you know, my endless bank account ran dry, you know, like, you know, every day where there's no traffic, there became traffic. Like, it's almost like you have
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
let people know, like, life happens to me too. Like, I don't.
It happens. Yeah.
You know.
And sometimes, you know what's wild too is like life happens, and just like you said, life happens. So people don't want to hear that. They don't want to understand that. So like sometimes, you know, I'm like, okay, I had to pay for this today. It's like $300 or whatever, like insurance or whatever came out, and then like everyone wants to do this, or I have to go to work today. But of course, you know, I work a little later today, so it's like 2:00. Now all the kids are out, and there's buses and buses, and then this school zone, and then now I'm stuck behind this bus because now it has 3 stops, and I'm finally on the highway. I get off, and as I'm pulling in, there's another bus, and I'm like, this, I just can't like get with the program today. Now I'm like 12, 13 minutes late, and it's like $325 down. Took me 22 minutes to get to work when it should only take me 10 to 11. And it's just like life just wants to keep kicking me in the face.
Sidebar. When did the buses start stopping at every door and waiting for the kids to come out? Like, on one of my worst days, like if I'm having a shitty day when I wake up and I get behind a bus and I see the bus waiting for the kid to come out the door, that is on a bad day. That is something to set me off like a fire alarm. I know we're off subject, but I just noticed it the other day. I'm like, when did the buses start waiting for these kids to come out the door?
I was thinking the same. Okay, so there's this one. I'm not gonna say where it is actually, but coming down this way, there's a couple houses that they stop at. I was stuck behind this bus. I was like probably 300 feet from being able to turn right into a neighborhood, so I couldn't get around the bus. And I'm pretty sure that's illegal anyways. And this they're like waiting. I'm like, where the fuck's this kid? Where the fuck is this kid?
In the house still.
And of course, I'm like, it's a kid. I'm sure there's problems going on. And that was me rationally thinking. But I'm like, dude, I got placed. I had to go to court police. So I'm like, I need to go. And no kid. I'm like, dude, this bus better close that door and keep it pushing. Kid finally came out, and I'm like, dude, holy fuck. If that was me, I'm getting beat, getting things thrown at me as I'm out the door. Bus would have closed and left.
And had to walk to school. I just had to ask that question because to tie it all in together, I've had that happen to me in the morning, and I'm having a bad day. And again, trying to explain to people how I'm feeling, like when I say I'm having an off day, is difficult because everybody has a bad day, right?
Yeah.
But to somebody who is really having a bad day, you just can't get out of it. Whereas, like, you know, some people can say, you know what, I'm going to turn this bad day around. So what? I'm late to work. When you're having a bad day and you have anxiety or like your depression flaring up or, you know, your PTSD, it's just like it's just the cherry on an ice cream sundae. It's like life keeps kicking my ass. How much harder is it going to kick?
Yeah.
And something as small as getting stuck behind a school bus on a bad day is like one of the worst things because it's like,
Dude.
This is my luck.
Yeah, and it's so bad too. I remember the one day. Again, this is. I know this is going to sound like a first world problem, very trivial, but there was the one day I was heading to Christine's house, and I had like a rough day at work. It was like 10, 11 hours, whatever. So I get home, shower. I'm heading up towards her. We're gonna hang out for a little bit, and from where we are to basically to Norristown. There's a bunch of lights. Like I come up there and I hit the first one right where 113 is in Hopwood. Right. I'm like, whatever. That one I usually hit. Fine. Get all the way down. Cool. I waited forever to turn onto Collegeville Road. And I know if this doesn't all make sense, that's fine. But then I'm hitting every single fucking light over and over and all the way down Germantown Pike. I'm like, dude. And then when I got up down to Germantown, right before I got to where the Creamery Tire is. Okay. You know where I'm at?
Yeah. Yep.
That one light right before there, that was like the last light I needed to get. I'm like, can I just fucking like please? Dude, so I gun it. I'm like, I just gotta get there. And I saw Chris, I don't know what came over me. My radar went off. I'm like, I am doing 60. I need to slow it down.
Yeah.
And I slowed it down. I'm like, okay, I got to like 40. I'm like, all right. Because I saw it. I'm like, that looks like a beam on the road. And it was a fucking cop. I'm like, thank God I saw it. Yeah, because it's like 10 o'clock, 10:15. Chris.
That would have been all you needed.
I wasn't even looking at the road, Chris. I'm looking at my rearview mirrors. And I'm looking at like, oh my God, don't pull out. Dude,
I know that feeling.
If that would have happened, I don't know. Because then I'm in my head, I'm like, I registered my car. Like I know I did. Like that should be all be good. And I'm like,
when you are an overthinker, that's how it is. It's everything you could do, you've done right. It does not matter.
It doesn't.
The saying, I know my luck. Like if you have anxiety, like you have generalized anxiety disorder. One of your favorite slogans is, if my luck is anything is bad. If it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have no luck at all.
Yeah.
That is our statement. That's just our statement. That's just it. We think that bad luck is our name.
But people don't understand it too, because like overthinking to the point where like I could get paid that morning, right? I have cash in hand, put cash in bank account, right? I know I have X amount of money in my bank account. I go with my buddies to like, I don't know, like get a drink, get a FIFA, go to like Applebee's, right? I pay like $20, $30, right? Do I have money? I know I put it in, but like, what if like some mysterious $3,000 is just out of my account? I have to check real quick. And then I'm like, wait, I got paid today. Doesn't matter. I have to check. And then I check and I'm like, oh, okay, we're cool.
Listen.
But then right when they hand me the bill, it's been like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Do I have that? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'll do you one better. After that, I will go home and probably an hour or two, all of a sudden the hamster wheel will start turning. You know what? Next week, I could use that $30 for X, Y, and Z. You know what? That $25. Watch next week come and wish I had that $25. That's what I'll do. I'll start doing that. And it's like, I don't know why, but it's just like, instead of me just enjoying that good time, I just have to worry about something.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And the one thing I used to hear growing up is, and I still do, is you got to stop worrying so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take your advice.
Get right on that.
I got into an argument with somebody a few weeks ago about that because we were just talking about mental health, illness, and when it comes to, anxiety and, triggers and things like that. And the one thing that people who don't really know the difference between being depressed at times, suffering from depression, having anxiety, or being anxious is like miles and miles apart. And one of the things that we had the argument about was, well, if you know what your triggers are, right? If you know what your triggers are, then you should be able to stop yourself. And I was like, wait a minute. Because for a second there, I was kind of like, wow, you're right. But then I was like, wait, no. I was like, no, knowing your triggers, it helps you to either prepare for the anxiety or to minimize it. But as far as just because you know your triggers, that doesn't mean that you should be fine. Because again, something can trigger it one day and not the next. And that's another thing I try to explain to people. It's unfortunately, there's no cut and cut and dry answer. I
Yeah.
can't say to you like
Yeah.
what exactly, because I get asked that like, well, what made you feel so anxious? And honestly, if I had the answer, I probably wouldn't be anxious. And
Well,
I think that's the
yeah.
one thing. I'm sorry to keep.
No, go. Keep going.
I think that's one of the things that keep a lot of people from talking about it still, because it's hard to explain, especially when you're explaining it to people who really aren't trying to get it. They're just trying to
dismiss it.
Yes. And like I always say to people, if you don't understand something, you could do a couple things. One is you can learn about it, try to educate yourself about it, or you can not do that, but at least be supportive. Or the third thing, just be quiet and don't say anything and just, nod your head, because if you don't know about something, giving your input on it can be detrimental to somebody.
For sure.
If you're talking to somebody who's having a bad day and you say to them, oh, you just need to get out of your own head, that's one more thing now that's in their head that they're thinking about.
Yeah.
So,
and people don't realize what adds up. Like I know for me, right? So when I go to work and I put the coat on, right, I'm like, okay, I have to do this, I have to braise this, I have to cook this, I have to get this prepped and this, and then I have to actually physically cook, And then it's like, someone will text me something trivial, like my buddy Gavin, shout out Stuttering in Silence again. He's like, hey, Sunday, you want to meet up and do all the stuff, and for no reason in the world should that freak me out, but it was just that one little twist of a text that was completely juvenile, completely trivial, and meant nothing other than, hey, let's, we're gonna get some of the business going, and it like panic for no reason. It's just everything, it just kind of like dominoes, and for no reason should that have been my reaction. But I was like, oh, and then once I calmed down, I'm like, yeah, dude, cool, sounds good.
When you have a million things going and you throw one more thing in it chances are it's not going to slow it down. It's going to cause discombobulation. So for me, when that kind of thing happens, that's what it is because for me, it's like, okay, I've already overthinked this a million times. I finally feel like, okay, I know what I got to do. I got to go. I got to count the drawer. I got to make sure this is done. I got to make sure this is stocked. I got to make sure this is done. And then somebody texts or calls with something like, hey, don't forget. Like you said, it could be something that's hours and hours after work. But all of a sudden, for some reason, it's all jumbled and everything else you got to do.
Yeah.
And it just feels like more pressure's on you for something that
shouldn't be that way. It's weird, dude. I don't know. There's a lot of things I think that are shifting now. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this book. I was actually presented the book a couple years ago, and I always talk about it. I love this. I want to actually reread it. It's called The Fourth Turning.
Okay.
And it's about every 80 years. I'm going to butcher a lot of this because I haven't read it in probably a good year. But it's about every 80 years, some shift in society. So, like an example, like 80 years from this year, like literally this year, was World War II. 80 years before that was, oh my gosh. It was some insane war. People are gonna ruin it. I'll put it up on the green screen so you guys can see it as I go down, and I'll do my research and refresh my brain. But War of 1812, and then you have the Revolutionary War, and it's all these shifts in society, big shifts, right? And we are in that 80th year, and my worry is, I think something big is gonna happen, and I think this whole societal norm situation, the way that everyone's viewing everything, this election's going to create a bunch of hoopla, and I think some big thing is coming. And I think everything in the past couple years has kind of been leading up to it. And it's a great book. I definitely implore you to read it. My one of my best friends, Benjamin D'Arcangelo, he told me about it because his dad read it and then passed it on. I think it was $13 on Amazon. Oh, wow. Really good book. But it tells you the different dichotomies of the generations as they kind of go through, and it's it's insane. But it's interesting that we talk about this and we talk about like the social contract and you have 2020 with COVID and people are changing and then now it's like we're in 2024 and there's so much going on.
I personally, and I've said this a lot too, I feel like COVID really ripped the Band-Aid off of a lot of things. One of the things I know for a fact that ripped the Band-Aid off was workforce, as far as employees.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Quote unquote, good employees versus bad employees. Yeah. I think COVID really ripped the Band-Aid off a lot of situations. And I know for me, working in hospitality all my life, with exception of the last couple of years, as I was younger, I was able to like mask, anxiety and things like that. And it wasn't accepted. 10 years ago, there was no such thing as a mental health day.
Yeah.
10 years ago, there was no such thing as, mental health in the workplace. And what I mean by that is there was no real talk about it. It wasn't really addressed. You never heard if you feel overwhelmed. You never heard anything like that.
It was never a thing.
No, and especially in a regular kitchen, like, because when hospitality, people don't realize when you say hospitality, it's a huge umbrella.
Yeah.
But when you're working in a restaurant like you're working at, I've worked in one, there's no room for anxiety. There's no room to be depressed. There's no room for PTSD. Yeah. There's no room for anything. There's no room for you to
might
be
even get laughed
at,
honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, you're weak.
Yeah.
You're soft. You can't hang. So you
can't hang. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
A lot of those things pushed a lot of people, but what people don't realize is it pushed them until they broke. And it's just like any chain of events. It's not necessarily the situation you're in where you're going to break. It's afterwards, the effects of that situation down the line.
Yeah.
It's like, I said before, I didn't realize how much childhood things affected me as an adult until recent years, because I never could equate certain things, like having dreams where I couldn't talk. I never could equate what that meant until I started going to therapy, and they're like, it stems from your childhood. And when I talk about my childhood, remembering the moments where my father was so drunk or under the influence of drugs that we couldn't talk because if we said the wrong thing, we risk getting effed up. So again, I wouldn't equate that. So again, fast forward to today, you can't find quote unquote good help in these jobs because the people who were in those jobs, had they gotten a proper help maybe, or maybe the boot wasn't on their neck so much, it might not be that bad. And while there are lazy people everywhere, that's not the case for what's going on now. I think a lot of it is people are just, they're tired of being overworked for little pay. They're tired of being expected to live, breathe, and die for a company at their own mental health expense and the expense of their family's health. And for me, that's just how I feel personally. I'm not saying I'm right, but that's just how I feel.
I think that's definitely shifted a lot. So there's a couple, and I don't know the accounts off the top of my head. When I find them, I'm going to put them up on the green screen for you guys. A lot of that has shifted because of like my generation and like millennials and things like that, where it's like, these boomers and everyone that they're like, I work for H&K. I'm going to die in this company. I'm going to eat, sleep, and breathe it. This is my, but now it's like there's this one girl, she doesn't talk with this actor, but she goes, hi. It's like Veronica is the character's name. And I'm pretty sure it's Veronica. And she works at this like firm or whatever, kind of like call center or whatever it is. And it's the manager's like, oh, Veronica, I'm gonna need you to work for like an extra like hour to stay for the team meeting. She goes, no, I'm not gonna do that because my mental health and my life and my pay doesn't structure you to get an extra hour out of me. And that's the idea that a lot of these Gen Zers, these millennials, are kind of waking up to a lot of that. And they're like, well, you're paying me, say, just for numbers game, you're paying me $10 an hour to do X, Y, and Z, right? And now you're expecting me to do this and this and this. How does that equate when I can just go over here and make $15 to do half the work, and I only will work my 9 to 5? And then this 9 to 5, they find out, oh, that's not my job. And look at the contract, like that's not in my description. I should be able to get off, or I'm getting called in on this, or this got canceled, or whatever it was. And it's like, oh, well, this place over here is paying $17 or $18, right? You know, and like in our industry, like they always joke, they go, I can just go to Chick-fil-A and dishwash for $15 an hour. And it's like,
because years ago there were certain jobs that if you didn't have a high skill set or skill level, you flocked to.
yeah,
But nowadays there are so many different things that you can do, and
Yeah.
also I think I don't want to offend anybody because in today's world,
no, it's okay.
but I also think that college was always, 10, 15 years ago was so stressed that if you don't go to college, you'll never get a good paying job. Whereas now you can, learn a trade, you can go online and pick up a certificate
yeah,
and for something that is needed in society and make good money. So I think what saved a lot of companies years ago is no longer, and that is we're the go-to job.
Well, my one buddy, Michael Gradwell, I'll shout him out, great guy. He was one of those people that didn't go to college, whatnot. Good on him. And he posted this photo, maybe a couple years ago or whatever. But what you just said made me think of it. And he's on jet skis, riding out with his buddy, and like I'm pretty sure he has a house now. And he goes, "Sorry, we're too stressed about paying back our college student loans, whatever it was." And it made me think of that because I'm like, oh damn, like he really is just making money, and like everyone else has these student loans and things like that. But he's out here making money, saving money, and he saved up and he was like, I want to buy a jet ski. So him and his buddies did, and they worked their balls off, dude.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of things like that where probably years ago it was like, the saying, boys go to college, or boys are stupider, girls go to college to get more knowledge and things like those little jokes when we were kids. But they're like, you gotta go to college. You gotta go to college. If you want this great job, you gotta go to college. But now people are finding out that it's like, I'm gonna spend $120,000, come out, maybe not get the job that I'm looking for, and now they're saying you're going to college to spend $100,000, and they're not even doing what you went to school intended to do.
It's crazy.
And there's a lot of people that work their jobs, and they're kind of laughing at these people now, and they're like, why? But go ahead, sorry.
And you know what else has, again, I think is dying? I don't know how many times you've heard this, but I have heard this, oh gosh, I can't tell you how many times. Work for the job you want, not the job you have. Which basically now
I like that.
Right.
I like that.
Sounds good, right? From
Yeah.
an employer standpoint, saying it to employee. You always want to work for the job you want, not the job you have. Right? Sounds good.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah, right. Sounds great. Until you realize that basically means just what it says. You're going to work just as hard as if you're the CEO. You're going to work just as hard as if you have major points in the company. But you don't. You don't. You still have to struggle to pay your bills. You still go home tired. You still miss the kids' game. You and your spouse are arguing, but you're making your bosses happy. I think people are at a point where they're like, wait a minute, no. Not to say I won't work hard, but no, I'm not working as if I'm the CEO.
Yeah.
Because in today's world, it's not even about working hard a lot of the times anymore. It's about connections and who you know. So I think a lot of people are fed up with that. They're like, I've always worked for the job I wanted and not the one I had, and I was never given the opportunity. And I know for a fact there were plenty of opportunities I've been passed up for. I'm not going to lie. Partially me, because years ago, people think my filter is bad now. Shoot, I didn't have one then. So, I can honestly take accountability. Oh, God. I can take accountability for some of my actions. But again, I didn't play the game. So as hard as I worked, as much as I did, as many extra hours as I put in, didn't benefit me. I almost want to say the job, but I don't because it's a big company and I don't want anything to happen to you guys. But I had a boss who would get angry if we would use our vacation time, but every weekend in the summer, he had a 3 or 4 day.
See, that was going to be my next point, was I feel that, like, it kind of just happened to me the other day. One of the new cooks was like, "Man, do you just do everything? I'm helping them dishwash." And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this is how I feel that if you're going to be a boss, this is how you should act. Always work harder than the people that are under you. Because in turn, they're going to be like, well, if Chef's doing this, I got to catch up. Because I'm going to be either put out of a job or I'm just going to be useless. So that goes back to that thing. You want to go take your vacation time, but yet he's going, oh, I'm just going to stop by my beach house for a 4-day weekend.
I can't tell you how many vacation days I forfeited for a company, for a job. Because, again, work for the job you want, not the one you have. And, not to say that it was pointless, because me being the person I am, I was proud of my work. And, the residents who were benefactors of that also appreciated it. But, now that I look back on that, I'll be honest with you. I never want to say I wish I was a lazier employee, but I wish I didn't go by that motto as much, because I'll be honest with you. That is partially what broke me down, because when you work by that motto and then you get tired, or like you're just mentally or physically not able to do it, then it starts to take a toll on your mental health, because then you start questioning yourself. What's wrong with me? Why am I so weak? Why am I such a bitch? Why can't I do this anymore? Something's wrong with me. When in no actuality, it's nothing wrong with you. I don't know if it was Gary V or one of the sensations.
Sure.
They were talking about that, and it was an audience member stood up who was a business owner.
Sure.
And he asked him, how do I get my employees to work like me and think like me? And I hope it's Gary V, but I know it is in my mind, but we're hoping so. But anyway, he was like, "You know how?" The guy said, he said, "You don't." He was like, "Why should they?" And the guy thought he was joking. He was like, "Why do you think your employees should work as hard as you? What are they getting other than their paycheck that is mirroring what you're getting?" The guy couldn't say anything. He was like, what I try to tell my employees is I want them to work as hard as they can and be as productive as they can. But for me to expect them to work as hard as me for a company that's mine, that I'm benefiting from the most, he said that's unfair. And again, I think that's where a lot of people have gotten to. And
that's an interesting notion. Yeah. Wow.
Because again, we've been, I hate using this word, but I feel like we've been bamboozled by society into thinking it's okay to work ourselves until we're physically and mentally dead. And you think about it, like, we get compared to the older generation, but look into the older generation. I'm talking about, the 50s and 60s. What kind of quality of life did they really have?
Look at the quality of life they have now, too.
So it's, what I'm learning for me is I have to do things that are in my best interest for my mental health. And when it comes to work, I always want to give 100%, but I'll be honest. I can't give 150% anymore. I may not be able to give you 125%, because again, if I spend all my money in the bank, then what do I have to eat with?
True.
I can lend you 20, but I can't give you the whole 50, because if I give you the whole 50, now how do I eat?
Yeah.
But we have been taught that you're supposed to give the job the whole 50.
Yeah.
Then what are you left with? I don't think that anybody who works hard 40, 50 hours a week plus should be made to feel guilty because that's all they work.
Yeah.
Because again, 10 years ago, if I had said to my boss, oh, my anxiety is really, really bad. Oh, he would have talked about me to everybody, and I would have been a laughing stock of the whole building. Literally.
Yeah.
So, it's funny how, I hear people talk about the workforce and the newer generations, and albeit I do believe the newer generation, so they are sheltered to a degree, but I also think they're smarter to another degree because look at it this way. Look at how many years people fought for higher wages. Now all of a sudden they're getting them.
Well, see, here's the thing though, too, with that higher wages, the price of living is ridiculous, and the wages are they're higher, but like they're saying now the ages between it's like 19 and like 30 to 31 they're still living with the parents, and for me to go out and go get a house, right, I would need at least $30,000 to $40,000 just to put down.
And that's and that's being
generous.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. And it's crazy because it's almost like it like right now it doesn't even make sense to rent because that's a mortgage every month. But then it's also like I need this amount of money, but you want your own place. But it's like, well, this one was too expensive this way.
Here's the thing with that though, because that's something that I, in my crazy mind, struggle with at my age, still renting, and and there people rent shame, they do, but again. Social media is a blessing and a curse. It's a double-edged sword because it can be great to learn some things as well as the opposite.
Sure.
But I was watching, a gentleman talking about renting and buying, and he made this point, especially in today's economic times. Not knocking home ownership, it's great. He said, if you can own a home, it's a great it's an asset. It's quote unquote the American dream. He said, but what people have to realize is. It's not for everybody. And again, if you are an overthinker, if you are a woe is me kind of person, renting is good for you because you can look at it this way. When you own your home and you pay your mortgage, right? Your mortgage, let's say your mortgage is $1,500 a month. You pay your mortgage. That's all you pay for. You pay for the mortgage for the house.
Mm-hmm. True. I see your point.
There's the water heater can break. The roof can get a leak in it. The electrical system can go. The floor can go. When you pay your rent, when you pay that $1,500 a month, once you pay that, all you worry about is your utilities. If the roof gets blown off, you don't worry about it. If the smoke detector goes, you don't have to worry about it. So, again, these are things that in society, I'm learning that society has made renters feel ashamed when in all actuality, it's just in some people's best interest to rent because let's be realistic. In this country, do you really ever own your home? Please don't get me wrong, everybody.
No. I see what you're saying.
I'm not knocking homeownership.
Yeah.
But again, you can pay $2 million for a house, and if you don't pay $10,000 in taxes, they take it from you.
Isn't that? I just want to. Okay, so that blows my mind, right? So there was this post that I saw, and it was the taxation of a normal U.S. citizen. And it's basically just in terms of like a homeowner, because like property tax and stuff. And it's okay. You pay $1,000 in property tax, right? Just for easy numbers. Then you go to Home Depot and you get spackle, but you pay $1.75 on tax. Then you get your paycheck and you pay $400 in tax. Then you go and you get ice cream for you and little kids and you pay that 6% tax. Then, right, you get taxed on the amount that you are sending money to somebody. Boom, now you're getting taxed again. And it's every step of the way you get taxed. You want to go to Target and buy a pack of gum? It's $1.06, Uncle Sam. And what's ridiculous is we are close to almost having less representation than we do now for our choice per person because a lot of the political divide, and we're getting taxed to no end. There was go ahead, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
There was a song that just came out, and it was Richmond, North of Richmond, and it blew up. Like my girlfriend Christine loves the song. It was massive, millions and millions of views on like TikTok, Instagram. Everyone knows the song. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
Richmond, North of I'll send the song to you. It's actually a really good song, but it's about like like, the Richmond, north of Richmond, right? Like in Richmond, Virginia, right north of that is Washington, D.C. So it's like they're taxing us, and literally one part of the song is we get taxed to no end. We're paying for all this other stuff, and it's like, at what point are we gonna look at this and be like, "Yo, is this too much?" And then I get to go and hit a fucking pothole, and now my tire's fucked, and I gotta pay $150 for a new tire.
Prince has a song called "Welcome to America."
Okay.
And it talks a little bit about that, but it just talks about, especially nowadays, it talks about all the crazy things that are going on, and talking about taxation and taxation without representation and things like that. He talks about, and to your point, here is where I stand, and this is how I look at things. I am not the most educated when it comes to politics, because I honestly feel like no matter how much I know, they're going to be what they are. But I can't trust anybody. You ready? And this is just where I stand. And when I say this, people look at me funny. I don't trust anybody who can allow you, okay, to speak ill of their family, okay? I can't trust anybody who can allow that and sit next to you and shake hands and smile. Because if you cannot respect your family, if you cannot protect your family, how in the hell can you do the same for me? Mm-hmm. How can you tell me you have my best interest at heart where your own family is being dogged by your opponent, and here you are next week shaking hands in a picture with them? That's how I look at it. And I know people are like, "Oh well, it's part of the game." No, at the end of the day, there's a game you're willing to play and there's a game you're not. And if you can't protect your own family, you can't do anything for me. I'm sorry.
That's the thing too. When it comes to politics, there's a lot of good candidates that I would love to see from Democrat or Republican side, where I'm like Vivek Ramaswamy, who was just in the Republican nominees. He's great, but there's a lot of guys like him that are out there that are really like actual intellectuals who, on the Democratic side of the or Republican side, would probably be able to like glue this whole situation together. But that is one of the problems is, do I want to go through and have every single part of my life get combed through by a fine, and do I really want, my son who has a gambling addiction or whatever it is? It's always how it goes. And it's like, do I really want his business out there? And he's recovering, and now he has to do all this publicity on this.
But see, that's the crazy part. It never was supposed to be like this.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, again, it's just a testament to the times we're in.
Yeah.
I don't watch the news unless I'm at work, because honestly, it's always bad news, or it's just, I said this to somebody at the gym. I got enough problems of my own. Like, I don't need to look at the news to feel even worse. How are you gonna know what's going on in the world? Again, thank God for social media. If it's anything that bad, Facebook or Instagram will tell me. But honestly, it's because when I watch the news, all I can do is laugh. You sit there and you watch these candidates from either side get up, and you listen to them, and then you watch individuals, regular people, begin to then tear each other apart over these candidates who, at the end of the day, they're vying for a job. How many of us have padded a resume before? Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, sure.
How many of us have told a job what they wanted to hear to get hired?
Yeah.
That's what these people do. And I know we want to think that because they have this highest position in the land kind of title that they will be exempt from that, but they're not. They are vying for a job. And whatever side they're on, their job is to tell those people what they want to hear to get the job.
Yeah.
So when I look at it like that, it's like, who's really going to be honest then?
That's why, I don't even CNN, Fox, can all get fucked. Yeah. I at this point, I legitimately, and it's going to sound very Gen Z of me to say this, but I get a lot of my information from outside sources, like TikTokers or whatever it is. And there's this Pearl Mania guy. The governor of Pennsylvania asked him before other reporters, because he's really cool and he's funny and he reports on just the facts. Yeah. And he's a cool, quirky little guy. I'll send you a video of him. He's great. But the governor of Pennsylvania was like, hey, come check out I-95 and watch us. We want to surprise the American people on how fast we get this up. But you're realizing that a lot of these people on TikTok can get canceled like this, and they don't have a network behind them, and they're only going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Or the truth, quote unquote, but hopefully. But a lot of these people they're not putting any political bias out there. They're not saying anything crazy. And it's like, boom, this is blue. You go, oh, that is blue. Oh, this is green. Oh, that is green. Oh, and then and they're also not on networks.
Yeah.
So when something comes out like this guy's a pedophile, people on TikTok and those accounts can be like, yeah, fuck that guy, and they don't have to be political about it. And then the guys on the networks are like, yeah, this is an awful thing to have happen. Hopefully he... Like, no. People want raw stuff and the facts. And sometimes, like, you can't get that on Fox a lot of the time. You can't get that on CNN a lot of the time. So people are so distrustful of those things.
Well, this is another thing. We have to be realistic. Look, when you turn on CNN, you are turning on CNN because they are going to report what you want to hear.
Sure.
And when you turn on Fox, you're turning on Fox because they're reporting what you want to hear.
Yep.
At the end of the day, people can argue amongst each other. Okay, case in point. Chris, are you pro-choice? Or are you pro-life, pro-this?
Yeah.
I'm pro-minding my business. I'm pro-minding my business. I'm pro whatever I can control in my four walls.
Yeah.
That's what I'm pro. I'm pro if it affects Chris, then I worry about it.
Sure.
Because, again, not to sound cruel, not to sound ignorant, I cannot worry about something that does not affect me. Like, okay, case in point. Not to get into it, not to rub anybody the wrong way. Pro-life, pro-choice. I'll be honest. I don't have a major say because, I mean, the only time it would affect me, God forbid, is if I was in that situation with a partner and she wanted to make the decision. But but ultimately, that's not a decision that I really have to worry about.
Sure.
So again, why am I now going to channel all my energy and resources into this just to say I'm right?
Yeah.
And that's what people are doing. People just want to be right. And it's not even about facts or non-facts. It's about being right or being wrong. And you see that when you see people spewing false information and people believing it. Because, again, it's people, you believe what you want to believe. It's just, this is life.
Confirmation bias, too.
Yeah. So,
you can look up, what was it? Something about like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It was like the right way to look it up or the right way to do it. But however you looked it up, you could find a different like click thing on how to do it your way. And it was like, I'm like, yo, there's no, like, it was like, oh, dude, it was so dumb. But it just goes to show the confirmation bias situations.
Oh, yeah. And I've had to check myself on a lot of things too. Like getting drawn into things and leaning to one side without hearing the facts, because again, sometimes it's easier, but what I've learned is everything easy is not always good.
True.
So if it's something that I really want to know, I'll look into it. But for the most part, if it's something that I could care less about, I'll be honest about it, and
wash your hands of it.
People, and when it comes to, the whole political thing, people get mad at me. They get angry because I tell them, listen, I'm on the side of me. Which side are you on? Me? What side for me? I'm on the side of Chris.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that's what, if a lot of people started doing, they'd be better off, because I think a lot of unnecessary stress comes from worrying about things that don't
matter. Don't need to be worried about.
And like I tell people, I worry about enough stuff as it is. So to worry about outside factors, I'm really asking for trouble.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna round this out a little bit. We're a little over an hour now.
Oh,
can you? Yeah, I know. I every time I do a podcast, because I bring, like I told you before I started recording, I only bring people on that I like having conversations with.
Yeah, and vice versa. Like,
and then I do this every time. I'm like, oh, dude, it's an hour. I'm like, okay, I gotta start dwindling it down, keep the time constraints. But I'm like, fuck, dude, I could do this for the next like 3 hours. And Ziggy was telling me, he's like, dude, you got to make them longer, dude. Everyone's been listening to him, and like, I'm like, I know. Once I figure all that kind of stuff out with like engagement and things like that, I'll definitely make it longer.
Well, me being an overthinker, I'm already thinking of things that I probably should have said that I want to talk about and things like that. Because that's
that's the best thing is we can just have you back on again.
Y'all hear that, right? Yeah, y'all heard that.
Yeah.
Make sure y'all heard that.
Yeah, man.
But thank you for having me on again.
Dude.
And just I really enjoy our conversations, not just here but outside of here, because it's just always nice to get a different perspective on things. Sure. And one thing I've always tried to do is, be a unifier of different groups, older,
for
younger,
sure.
Things like that.
Yeah,
front of the house, back of the house, things like that. So
the front of the house, back of the house. One of these days I'll be a server, and I'll do one day.
We used to have and genius idea of mine. We used to have what we call position switch. Once every 2 weeks, we would have a dishwasher serve and a server do dishwashing, and we would have a supervisor work the line and have a line cook supervise. But we would always make sure like it was a slow night or whatever.
Yeah.
Just so everybody had an idea of what the other person did. Because it's always easy to say all you do is serve food, all you do is cook food, all you do is wash dishes. Until you do it, then you'll never know. So that's just, I always tell new jobs when I go to, that's something that I think people should do more, because
I like that.
That's the easiest way for people to learn each other's jobs and not say stupid things.
Say stupid things. It's my entire life. Say stupid things. I talked an entire hour. Probably said a bunch of stupid things. But seriously, Chris, dude, it was awesome. I'm glad you were made it all the way out this way. I'm sure it was a bit of a drive for you, but I do appreciate it. And just round one thing out, just like I said in the beginning, guys, a whole bunch of cool things are going to be happening in Stuttering in Silence. So please go to check that out. Check out my buddy Gavin's page. He's amazing. But Chris, dude, seriously, I really appreciate your time, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to have me on.
Yeah. Peace, guys.
Peace, everybody.